Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for the Free Motion Quilting Project. Today I'd like to talk all about color. We've been working to foundation piece the hair sections for Express Your Love, and we've already pieced this background, this log cabin background for this new version. And the thing that I'm sure you're wondering about is how I've gotten these colors. These are all different shades of blue, light blues, darker blues, but they all work together in a really nice way. They look scrappy, but they still look like all blues. They look like they're meant to go together. The same thing here. This is a variety of different colors of red, yet they still really work well together. So how do I know how to do this? How does this work exactly? Well, to be honest, I've never taken classes on color. I've never really been formally taught about how color works exactly. I've always just run off of intuition, but I think that this is something that really I found very obvious, and I'm going to try and share it with you. My love of color really comes from beadwork. And that might be a little odd, because I'm a quilter now, but for 8 years through middle school and high school, which was a long time ago, I did beadwork obsessively. I made necklaces and jewelry and all kinds of things, and I used a lot of very rich colors, very different colors than what I use now, but I had a good understanding of mixing beads, and there was a very specific reason why I had to mix, and that is I didn't have a very big bead collection at the time, and so whenever I wanted to make a necklace that was, say, green, I had only a limited number of beads, of green beads, so I had to pull from my entire collection and use small amounts of each color in order to make the necklace work, in order to have enough beads for the entire necklace. So let me actually show you an old necklace that I made. This is called the Swamp Necklace, and it is all different colors of brown and black, and there's even some little beads of green in this. It was one of my favorite necklaces that I made back in high school, and I'm so glad that I still have this because it's kind of a testament to what I used to do, what I used to love to do. I don't necessarily make necklaces like this anymore, but it's certainly something nice to look back on. But what I want to draw your attention to are these seed beads. This is what I'm talking about by bead mixing. And you might be able to see this, you might not. This collection, this is really a variety of colors. We've got black, we've got kind of a metallic brown, we've got darker browns, we've even got some gray, all mixed together into one wash. And whenever you look at it, you step back from it, you can pull out the little bits of light from the kind of coppery brown. You can pick out some of the gray a little bit, but really it becomes one solid color. And that is really what we're going for. We're going for, you step back from it and say, okay, that's brown. But, at the same time, you're looking for that richness. Now let me back up and show you. I've been working on pulling scraps for both the orange and the yellow sections here. And really pulling scraps works the exact same way. Whenever I pull scraps or whenever I pull strips from my stash, it works the exact same way whenever I was making a bead wash. And basically what I would do with the beads, I'm going to kind of show you both methods. Starting with the beads, I would lay out all the colors that I had and take a look at them. And then anything that really stood out to me, like this color, just really doesn't work, then I would just start pulling those colors that I think would be maybe too bright or wouldn't go with the general theme that I was going for. These two are more of a teal or turquoise. I'm not really into those. But as you pare down, you start to get more of a cohesive look. This one could stay in, even though it's a slightly darker, more blue-green, because it's balanced with this one. And it's really, honestly, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Because the simple fact is, in the whole wash of beads, if you pull up a couple of these and a couple of these, it's really not going to matter so long as you have enough of everything else. So here's what I would do. Take off the cap, and these are just cigar tubes. My dad used to smoke cigars a lot, and he would save the tubes for me to keep my beads in. And so every time I pull them out, I have to kind of think of my dad, and they smell really nice too, so it's kind of a dual benefit there. And I just put a cap full of the beads into my bowl. And I do that again with the next color. Just one capful of beads each. It's a small amount, but it can go far because you're mixing such a variety of colors. You're mixing a small amount, but at the same time, once it's all mixed, you've got this nice collection. And this is exactly how I mix fabric colors, and I really think that this is a great way of mixing, even for a quilt. If you have a quilt that is wanting a background color in white, well, what if you had a lot of different prints that read white, and you have a lot of scraps of different prints of white, those white on white prints. Well, you could absolutely do the same idea, cutting strips from each of those prints. They're all going to read a little differently because those white on white prints have kind of a extra texture to them. But at the same time, if you use equal amounts of each one, just like I'm doing here with these beads, you're going to end up with a really nice collection, a really nice wash of that color. And you know what? The nice thing about the white on white prints is if you did that and you step back on it, it's still going to look white. It's still going to look like one solid color. Okay, so that is all my colors, and all I have to do is give it a little stir. And at this point, I would take a look at this and say, okay, well, what color is too dominant? What color is standing out to me quite a lot? And I'm finding that it is this color green, this lime green. That's okay. If I wanted this to go more that color, I could add some more of this, and then that would become more of the dominant color of this wash. I could even add, I pulled this before, but now I'm thinking that it actually needs it. And this is kind of like those recipes, those stew recipes, where you just kind of start throwing stuff in and tasting it and see what it tastes like. And generally, it works really well. And see, that's even prettier now with those beads in there. So that's another thing. Don't get too picky about pulling so many colors. You never know when the color you pull might actually make it look really beautiful. So there's a nice bead wash, and that's going to be perfect for a necklace. Now let's talk about scraps. And I've got my collection of green scraps here. And I'm going to just show you how I generally would kind of go through this. I'm looking for long strips for this particular project, but I can even use little pieces like this, that's fine. But I am looking for all solids and batiks that read as solids. And I'm looking for big enough pieces where I can cut strips would be the nicest. And this is a nice big piece. And so what I do, once I find a piece that I like, I'm just going to clip it about 1.5 inches from the edge, just like that, and just rip. And the reason is, with ripping, you're sure that this is now going to be a piece that's on grain. Yes, you're going to have some fuzzies. Yes, the edges are going to be a little wiggly wobbly, but for foundation piecing, that does not matter. That's a perfect strip to work with. And generally, just like with the beads, I'm going to cut equal numbers of strips. So I'm going to do 3 of this piece. So that way I have a nice amount of this one piece to work with. And then let's see if I've got another big piece in here. I've got this dot batik. Ooh, and I've got a nice strip already. So this is a little wide. So I would take this and clip it and rip the whole thing in half. And that's more than enough. Set this over, and that'll be more of my green collection. I really like this dark solid, but you see how much contrast it is against those 2 lighter shades. I think in small doses it's going to be perfect. Let's see if I've got some more. This is already a strip. That's perfect. And as I build it up, I'm kind of doing this layer across my table, and that's really nice too, because then you can just shoot a photo of it, and if anything is standing out to you, let's say I took this scrap and put it in here and thought that was going to work too. I've got a little bit more of it here. Well, that stands out quite a bit, probably too much. But then again, just like with the beads, you don't know until you really start setting down and piecing, but I do advise taking a photo and seeing what things look like. Now, we all end up with weird scraps. Like this one is just really strange. We've got a long kind of L shape here. And so I'm going to clip this like this and rip it, see if I can make, yeah, that's more or less a long strip now, and now that's a long strip. And I'm not going to worry too much about this being an exact size all the way through. I'm just trying to get some general stuff pulled here. And these look kind of nice. And yeah, you know, as I'm looking at all these are definitely standing out, so I'm going to pull those back. But take a look at what I've got here. You know, it's all green, but it's different shades and different values of green. I've got this lighter green in here. And when all that goes together, it's going to be really pretty. And so I would really advise you to go through your scrap stash. You know, look at all the different shades and types of batiks that you have. Take a look at them. I'm on my way. Take a look at them and cut some 1.5 to 2 inch strips. They can even be more narrow than that. If you've got a collection of strings, that's fine too. It's whatever you have on hand. This is one of those situations where you're making something out of nothing, and that's really important because we're taking small amounts of everything and putting it together to create our piece of hair. And you don't need a whole lot. These pieces don't require a ton of fabric. So if you're worried about not having enough scraps, that's perfectly fine. Just cut what you have, make a nice collection, and then step back and take a look at it. Take a picture of it, and that's going to give you a lot of clarity. Right here, this is where my yellows are. Well, I had these 2 shades right here that were kind of in between. They could go over here in the orange, and they could go over here in the yellow. This piece in particular is a lot darker, and it's kind of an unusual shade of yellow. It even has some pink in it because I think it was a kind of a variegated batik. And that's fine, but I need to kind of maybe step back from that or take a picture of it. Make sure that that one single print is not going to suddenly stand out like a real needle in a haystack. You really don't want one single print to be alarming. Remember this green? I could probably handle this green being in the quilt if I had another similar green to go with it. And so that way that would turn the entire wash into more of a lime effect. And that would work fine. You know, remember our bead mix? This worked better when I added that extra lime green because it made the entire collection brighter and lighter. So I hope that this video has helped you see that color is something to play with. Get into your sewing room. Take a look at all the different shades you have of a particular color. Rip 1 or 2 inch strips from every single print. Lay them out and take a look at them. Chances are you're going to have something really interesting. And it's a scrappy effect that you really can't get any other way. Just remember, it's a lot like making those weird kinds of stews. You throw in a cup of everything and somehow it comes out tasting great. Well, in this situation, you're throwing in 2 strips from every color, and somehow or another, it's going to turn out great. I promise. So my name is Leah Day. This has been a video for the Free Motion Quilting Project. Find hundreds of videos on making beautiful quilts at freemotionproject.com. Until next time, go play with color.